happening tonight in Vancouver.
We're all alarmed by the increase in anti-Asian hate.
Days after Bloomberg called Vancouver the anti-Asian hate capital of North America, we're hearing from Vancouver's mayor and his response to what's going on in the city, and some other groups who say the time for action is now.
It's an opportunity for Vancouver to really step up and lead on this issue.
I was extremely shocked that this had happened.
Criminal defense lawyers in BC are frustrated hearing some of their Crown Counsel colleagues are getting priority access to the vaccine, while they are not.
Full-scale war feared in the Mideast as Palestinian and Israeli civilian casualties mount. Signs the conflict is intensifying. Plus,
images that came out overnight are harrowing.
The new U.S. push for calm.
This is City News Everywhere.
Good evening and welcome to City News. There are 600 new cases of COVID-19 across the province tonight, and one more death has been reported in the last day. 423 people are currently in hospital. 141 are in intensive care. On the vaccine front, nearly 2.3 million doses have been dispensed across BC. Just over 115,000 of those are second doses. And tonight, those who aged 30 and older will be able to book their vaccination appointment. As for the AstraZeneca shot, the province says due to limited supply, BC is holding all remaining AstraZeneca vaccine for second doses. Existing pharmacy bookings will be honored, but additional appointments will not be accepted for now. The province is also reporting that more than 50% of eligible British Columbians have received their first dose of the vaccine. COVID-19 rule breakers in BC won't be able to get away with leaving fines unpaid if they want to get or renew their driver's license. This is the province's latest attempt to collect hundreds of unpaid tickets worth nearly $1.2 million. So far, only 14% of the nearly 2,000 tickets handed out during the pandemic have been paid. Of those remaining, Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says a lot are being disputed.
It is a significant number, and that's to be expected. I mean, many people, when they get a ticket, dispute it. What we're making clear is this: you have that right to dispute a ticket, but when you lose, you are going to have to pay that fine.
Disputed fines of $2,300 and up are heard by a judge, the rest from a justice of the peace. The new rules won't kick in until July 1st, but they're retroactive to cover all tickets handed out.
Every single time we think we got this pandemic understood and know what to do, it throws another curve at us.
Over the past 14 months, nurses have been deemed the heroes of the global pandemic. It's National Nursing Week, and we're hearing from nurses across Metro Vancouver who share the important roles they've played during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, days after the Bloomberg report came out, Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart pledged to do something about the anti-Asian hate issue. He says he's meeting with a number of groups to try and solve the problem. However, some of the other groups in the community are saying the time for roundtables is over and the time for action is now.
In the end, we're not going to police our way out of this.
The mayor held an online availability with media on Wednesday. He insists action is being taken to prevent hate crimes targeting people of Asian descent.
We have a anti-Asian hate roundtable where we're bringing in community members to talk to the police board as well as the police about their experience with what is happening in their community and what concrete actions they'd like us to take.
We need to do it yesterday. We need to do it for a long time, and it's not just a short-term measure.
Queenie Chu is the CEO of Success in Vancouver, a group that provides a multitude of services to people on the Lower Mainland and in more than 50 different languages. While this community group has not been a part of any recent discussions with the city, it has some ideas when it comes to immediately addressing the problem. One example includes creating clear legislation or motions to give people concise guidelines when they want to report hate-related cases.
the legislation is very important because then really define what do we regard as hate crime, and especially anti-Asian hate crime or racism of any of its forms. So that is very important. And also what is the process of prosecuting those hate crime when it happened.
I'm honestly still just hearing a lot of talk right now.
Stephen No is from Vancouver, and he recently tried to file a report with police after experiencing a hate crime. He recognizes there are a lot of priorities in the city right now, but notes the anti-racism issue can't wait. To avoid more people becoming the target of discrimination or even physical violence, he says tangible solutions need to be put in place as soon as possible.
I think we need actual actions being taken here. This is discrimination at its finest. This is access to justice at its purest form. Things cannot be delayed or waited for a board meeting. Guys, we need something very concrete and seen right now.
No says too many people in his community have been hurt and too many are living in fear. While he says the Bloomberg report is disappointing, he's optimistic and believes Vancouver has a chance to turn things around.
We have this obligation to really help out those without a voice. And it just saddens me. My mom works at a dim sum restaurant. A lot of our clients are scared to go out for a walk in broad daylight, and they're carrying pepper spray with them. What kind of city are we? I think we have an opportunity here to lead, and this is a wake-up call for sure.
In Vancouver, Ria Renouf, City News.
We do obviously interact with very vulnerable clients and travel from different health regions.
The judge, Crown Counsel, Defense Counsel, the sheriff, the court clerk, witnesses. All of these people are often still required to be physically in the courthouse despite COVID-19. But only a portion of them have been told by the province they have priority access to a vaccine in BC. And some who are left out are fearful and frustrated.
We're just wanting to ensure that there's a conversation that includes Defense Counsel as well.
The BC Prosecution Service has confirmed to City News that personnel working in Vancouver were recently offered priority access to vaccinations. Cassandra Cronin is the chair of the Criminal Defense Advocacy Society, representing over 300 defense lawyers across BC. She says while it's great their colleagues are getting the vaccine, defense lawyers across our province are very confused as to why they have been left out, considering they are routinely in contact with the public, including high-risk populations.
If I attend court, for instance, youth court, it's something that is really difficult to do remotely when you've got a vulnerable youth who might be Indigenous or a person of color or have other barriers and are vulnerable.
Vancouver lawyer Kyla Lee says the difference in vaccine priority among the same group of professionals, lawyers practicing in BC, just doesn't make sense.
I was extremely shocked that this had happened, that it had not been communicated to the public at large, and that it hadn't been communicated to Defense Counsel or to sheriffs or to other court staff that this was going on.
We reached out to the Ministry of Health regarding Crown Counsel in Vancouver being given priority access to the vaccine. They referred us to Vancouver Coastal Health, who wrote back to us saying in part, courthouses and law firms are not included in the provincial list of priority frontline workers. However, some office sites may have been included in our at-risk business program. In such cases, invitations would go to those who regularly work at the identified address.
Crown Counsel, since roughly April, May, have been appearing by and large in courtrooms over MS Teams. They've not been attending courtrooms in person as often as they would have before the pandemic, and certainly not as often as Defense Counsel.
As of now, the Criminal Defense Advocacy Society has penned a letter to Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry, asking to be considered for priority access to the vaccine, and they are waiting for a response.
To ensure that we're protected, not just for ourselves, but also that we're protecting our clients.
Ashley Burr, City News. Last week, it was an intentional test, but today's broadcast of BC's emergency alerting system was an accident. And in many cases, it was a loud one. Emergency Info BC says human error is to blame for today's Alert Ready test, which was an accidental rebroadcast of last week's test. The text and sounder is sent to phones and broadcast over TV and radio, alerting people of potential disaster.
Violence is escalating and casualties are mounting as fears grow of an all-out war. The worst fighting in 7 years between the Israeli military and Palestinian militants erupting this week, and civilians are caught in the conflict that could spiral out of control. An Israeli strike Wednesday taking out this building where local media outlets, including a Hamas-run TV station, were known to be housed. It's in a busy shopping area. Warning shots were heard ahead of the attack. Earlier, fear in Tel Aviv. Residents running for shelter as air raid sirens sounded after Hamas and the Islamic Jihad group vowed to fire retaliatory rockets. Those rockets met by interceptor missiles. Gaza's death toll rising to more than 50. Hundreds are hurt. At least 6 people have been killed in Israel. The latest hostilities erupting after protests in Jerusalem over restrictions at a major Muslim holy site and the planned eviction of Palestinian families. Now, there's no resolution in sight. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledging to hit Gaza militant groups like they've never dreamed possible, he says. The threat coming shortly after Israel said it killed 16 members of the Hamas military wing. This video capturing a blast from a Palestinian rocket fired from Gaza. A call for urgent de-escalation coming from UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who posted, "I am urging Israel and the Palestinians to step back from the brink." Ahead of an emergency United Nations Security Council meeting Wednesday on the conflict, its second session in 3 days, the UN's Middle East envoy tweeting, "Stop the fire immediately," warning the region is escalating towards a full-scale war. And an update Wednesday from Washington. The U.S. is sending a diplomat to meet with Israeli and Palestinian leaders.
The most important thing now is for all sides to cease the violence, to de-escalate, and to try to move to calm.
The U.S. Secretary of State added that the U.S. remains committed to a two-state solution. And new reaction from Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Marc Garneau. He writes, Canada is gravely concerned by the situation in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. We urge all parties to take immediate steps to end the violence, de-escalate tensions, protect civilians, and uphold international law. Melissa Duggan, City News.
We've really had to change the way we do public health and safety, and I've seen, for the most part, Canadians are taking care of each other.
Healthcare workers have been named the heroes of the global pandemic. During National Nursing Week, nurses across Metro Vancouver are sharing how their careers have changed during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Every single time we think we got this pandemic understood and know what to do, it throws another curve at us. The hardest part is when you have a patient who is a little bit confused because they're critically ill. They don't know who is taking care of them because we're all wearing masks and goggles, and they can't interact with their family member.
Vinnie Baines is a clinical nurse specialist in critical care here at St. Paul's Hospital in downtown Vancouver. She says over the past 14 months, her day-to-day tasks have changed significantly, and it's something she never would have predicted in her 25 years of nursing.
I never went into nursing school thinking that we would have this once in 100-year pandemic. We had SARS, which was really mild in Vancouver. We had the inklings of H1N1, which was scary, but all of those were, baby compared to this.
At Vancouver General Hospital, Jordan Horvath has been working as an emergency room nurse. He emphasizes just how much work goes into caring for a COVID-19 patient.
Usually we've got someone who's in the room providing care as a nurse. We've got a respiratory therapist in the room, and we have a physician in the room. But outside of the room, we have to have clean providers who are able to go and get things, put in orders, ensure that we have everything we need for that patient available, or at least close to the room, so that they can pass it into us.
And the impacts of COVID-19 trickle down to all units of a hospital. Sherry Kenzel with the Nurses and Nurse Practitioners of BC Association explains how her job working on a hemodialysis unit has also changed.
As we saw more and more patients trickling in with COVID, it was really caring for those patients and really reassuring them that we can keep them safe and we can keep them as healthy as possible. And reassuring the other patients around them. our hemodialysis patients are immunocompromised, so it's really important that we have that extra layer of protection for them.
But it's not all bad.
We've really shone the light on nursing and the incredible role that we play. And I think that just that sense of pride and that sense of professionalism really helps to elevate ourselves as a profession as well.
And despite being in the third wave of the pandemic, there are several reasons why these nurses continue to show up to work day after day.
In the time of a global pandemic, we always just hope that we've provided excellent care.
I work with the most amazing, courageous, dedicated, incredible people, and it is an honor to spend every day with them. And in this pandemic where we've really pulled together and we've really leaned on each other, I can't abandon them. This is the only place to be.
In Vancouver, Miranda Fatour, City News.
Vancouver's news is always available on the radio with News 1130 or online anytime at citynews1130.com. Your next edition of City News is tonight at 11. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night.